advice. This is not money advice. Take a look at the stock market if you're into those things. And you tell me the economic shift right now. Take a look at what Microsoft is doing. Take a look at what Nike is doing. Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. Take a look at them. Welcome back to another episode of Autonomous Income. I'm your co-host, Deuce Noble.
The co-host DJ. What's going on today, Deuce?
Hey man, just another day, another dollar. And we're living in this world, this AI world, and this AI bubble. Who knows? It may pop today, it may pop tomorrow or next year. Today we are bringing you guys some good stuff, some news and different things. Today we're going to talk about the AI disruption and what that means for you, for us, and everyone in between. DJ, you want to kind of unpack that a little bit and what we're going to talk about?
Yeah, we ran some analysis, and the goal is basically to do a little bit of a dive. It's a little speculative of what we think when the robotics really meets artificial intelligence in the job market, what that could potentially look like, some things that you need to position yourself for, and just get ready for, and, what we really feel people need to be kind of focusing in on as this whole thing starts to progress. Because, pretty much now in the next couple of years, once robotic really starts to scale, AI is already scaling, as we all know. I just think the workforce and a lot of things will look a lot different. We just want to make sure that, your income stays autonomous.
That's right. So, with that said, we're going to show y'all a few different things and talk about a few different topics, of course. But, of course, the first one, DJ, what does will artificial intelligence liberate human potential, or will it replace it? What do you think?
Yeah, Deuce, man, I think honestly that it'll be liberating. It's hard to tell for sure, of course. Nobody can really predict the future. I would tell you, I guess, from what I would like to happen, I think it'll be liberating. I think I'm on the stance of utopia, so I'm hoping it'll be more of a utopian experience for a lot of individuals. But, that's kind of where I'm at. What about you, Deuce?
It's definitely going to be something to question, right? I think over time, AI, it's a tale as old as time, right? We've seen it in movies. We've seen how it takes on in different personas. However, I don't think it's going to replace it, but I also think AI is just a fad, honestly. So it may be interesting just to see how it goes. That's just my take on it. I don't know.
Well, as it is right now, we know we have like the figure three. I think they're on their third iteration. We have Tesla Bot. We have all of these, definitely in across the pond or in the, overseas, all kind of different type of robotics. And here in the States, we know robotics is really starting to come into the folds as well. I think later this year, they're supposed to be one of the first major releases of a personal bot. I remember we talked about that at the end of last year. We'll link the video below. But, these personal, different types of bots, I just think that a lot of that, as it starts to unfold, then naturally, as it gets into either the workforce or just, even in personal life, like it's going to look a little different. So as we're talking here about the growth versus the decline, what's kind of your thoughts on that, Deuce?
All right. So when I think about the decline, you got to look at different things and different roles that are going to be impacted. Basic roles, right? You're going to have that's going to be taken over really, really fast, even at the very extensive roles like programmers, right? Data entry for different things is going to be taken over, but programmers. So we're going to see a steady pace of these jobs kind of disappear, in my opinion. But obviously, who knows how fast or how long it may last, right? It could spread even more to different roles that you don't think might be affected by AI, right? So it'll be interesting to see, my opinion.
Yeah, I do agree. Like, I think right now we're kind of seeing, there's a lot of shakeup in across different industries, but you see AI a lot, and you see a lot of layoffs and a lot of those things. So, especially on some of the redundant jobs or some of the functions that,
Well,
they
Well,
may consider basic.
not even just layoffs. I don't even know what the cause may be, but the job market itself is, yes, there's a lot of layoffs, but also there's not a lot of available jobs. But you see an influx of people applying to jobs, right? And no one's getting it. And you think of it as this, it's almost like you could think of these AI or bots rather flooding the market with applications and nothing is really coming about. So yeah, layoffs is one thing. We see a decline in that. We see a decline in jobs, but like you said, some of these more redundant autonomous roles may take a hit. And this is why we got to have our income be autonomous, right?
Yeah, that's definitely the goal. That's a part of, and it's not all doom and gloom, because there are some sectors that are, like we see here, like that'll definitely have growth. healthcare right now is definitely ready for, like when the taxi industry, when Uber happened, it's ready for its Uber moment, right? I mean, like it's ready for a lot of streamlining and a lot of those things. So that's definitely it. Green tech is definitely something that a lot of people have been positioning themselves for, and just AI maintenance in general. And that AI maintenance can be very broad, but I mean, just as you look at just all of the things that comprises of what runs these different types of models and gets them different experiences to everybody, that's definitely something to kind of consider. So,
I
what
think
do you
I
think?
think to your point, AI maintenance is really going to be kind of the sweet spot, especially for how you shift your mindset as far as whatever role you may have, like software engineers, right? Yeah, there's going to need to be somebody to maintain, the back end of those LLMs, some of those different bots that they may have and how AI overall just reacts, right? That's the maintenance parts of it from a software perspective. There's also a hardware perspective for maintenance, right? But also, I am ecstatic to see kind of how healthcare really takes off because there is a lot of opportunity for healthcare to utilize AI in very, very different facets, and they're already using it in a lot of places. Maybe not always in the US, but a lot of countries and other places are using it. So it's really, really interesting to see how not only will these sectors be poised for their growth, but how they kind of transition on a tilt, right? Because you got to think like, hey, this isn't just going to happen overnight. We have to
Yeah.
adapt, pivot a little bit, and make room for working together with AI. And I think that's ultimately the whole thing. That's really my stance. Like, it's not really going to take over, but we have to find a way to work with it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely collaboration. And with AI maintenance, I mean, like that's could also be considered like human in the loop, right? I mean, like
Right, of course.
ethical oversight, and you see a lot of ethics roles being opened up at companies, AI ethics, and all of those things, and governance, AI governance. So a lot of those type of positions are kind of opening up in corporate America, and like just being able to understand, what goes into all of those things. So that's maintenance side, very broad, but I mean, essentially, like you want to, definitely, it seems like a lot of companies are positioning themselves to with a more human in the loop approach, even though we're just at the start of 2026, basically. And I do feel like more
Right.
agentic freedom is going to happen. We'll definitely talk about that as it talks to Open Claw in another episode and all that. But yeah, I think there's going to be just a lot of more, that's going to be very interesting, Deuce, to see the balance between agents and what all that they're able to do autonomously, or having human in the loop, and like where that, as is the loop going to start getting larger and larger, essentially, and or what are smaller and smaller, and whichever direction, you get what I'm saying, is basically where like it'll be less and less interaction with humans until like it's going to be fully agentic. But
Really interesting to me. And as we kind of transition to this, automation risk, the thought that keeps coming to my head is you remember the movie I Robot with Will Smith, right?
yeah, of course, that's a staple. Yeah.
I mean, that movie, it really kind of
And that
goes
was
to
oh
show like,
03, oh 04, or something like that.
yeah,
That's
it was
crazy,
it was
right? Yeah.
it was a while ago, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, if you really look at how that movie came about, but also the advancement in the robotics, but not
Yeah.
only robotics, but agentic AI, right? There was some of that in there as well. The advancement really came from this new neural robot that they had, and that's kind of well, like it sounds almost scary and creepy, but yeah, we're kind of headed in that route. If you think about, what's
Yeah.
out now, we're headed not saying to the demise of what happened in that movie, but just how that movie is poised, like the setting behind it. If you really think about it, right? It's kind of interesting because everything is becoming more automatic. If you look at that movie, a lot of jobs were taking, not necessarily taken, but transitioned, as so to speak, as far as like, let's say you could have delivery drivers completely automated with robotics, right? And AI. There's things of that nature that kind of really go into it. If we're looking at, things right now, what Amazon is doing. And yeah, so there's a lot of risk in that. So, like I said,
Yeah.
advanced robotics, like it says, is clearly moving from a centralized to complex logical tasks. And all I can think about is iRobot.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it'll behoove us to separate the two, right? Because we have AI and you have, agents and all of those things, and you have robotics, right? So I mean, like if you separate the two, robotics being, where manufacturing and like labor, like physical labor and all those things, those are, jobs and roles and everything like that that could potentially be impact on. But as we said at the top, like, it may be utopian, right? To where like somebody can manage, a bunch of a section of, robots or something that are doing something and they can still keep the human in loop to check on there. The automation risk, just in whole, as we're talking about, is like also if you talk purely AI, that could be administrative, as depicted here in the image that was also generated by AI. But you can see like you may not need the physical robot there to sit at a computer because it may just run autonomously on whatever software, right? That gets into that path. But as we talk about these two worlds melding together, it's just definitely very interesting. So customer service, there's already applications that are out there. And Deuce, you know this, that can call or take calls. And, we get that with AI all the time now. And you can kind of tell. And they even like play little sounds like they're in a contact center or call center or something like that. I think current roles and everything like that that are at risk when we talk about just AI itself, separating robotics, or just like it says, anything administrative that's super repetitive, those data entry and all those other things, those seem to be the ones that are really impacted as it is right now. And especially over the next couple of years, those really starting to kind of wind down. So I think that gives opportunity for other sectors, or just continuing education, like to get into to different things as you kind of let AI handle that.
Absolutely. That a lot of those roles will need some time for adapting before it's fully fleshed out. But like you said, we're getting rid of that human touch, and there's going to need to be oversight, right? You can't just, well, ideally, you can't just let, AI robotics to work at their tools that they are capable to have for themselves. So it'd be interesting just to see all of that. And of course, that job turn is it's super projected, right? Over the next couple of years, research shows, AI specialists, sustainability, education, all that stuff is going to go up. And like you said, those repetitive jobs, admin, clerical, factory jobs, that they have robots in already, but they're not
Yeah.
autonomous, right? A lot of that's going to be very, very interesting. And I think we talked about this previously, but just the shift in what people are going to go to school for. There's already AI ML
Yeah, we definitely
degrees out
talked about
there.
it. Yeah.
And granted, I feel like at this rate, it's about to be 4 years ago. But when I got my MBA, there's now, and I think this came out maybe a year or two ago, but the MBA degree that some schools are now offering for MBA specifically
Yeah.
in augmented reality. I'm sorry, not augmented reality, but artificial intelligence.
Artificial
So
intelligence. Yeah.
it's interesting just to see how that job trend's gonna take a tilt, like we was talking about, and see where those chips are gonna fall.
Yeah, I mean the churn is definitely real. So to go with AI, this is very broad, right? So AI specialists can be across the gamut, as we talked about before. You see a lot of AI product management roles. You see a lot of AI agent, type roles, governance, and all those. So it's a broad spectrum. But you can already see there if you go out on platforms like LinkedIn or Indeed or Glassdoor, a lot of roles that are opening up right now that they're building digital experiences. You see AI kind of attached to it in some form or fashion, or it's in the job description of like leveraging it or and all those other things. So that's kind of like where it's showing the growth. Of course, that's just gonna continue on the trajectory that it is right now. Sustainability, that's a big thing also, just because of I guess right now that just sustainability in general is a big thing for all across the globe. So there's a lot of positioning right now to really focus in and hone in on sustainability in general. There's just a lot of growth in that sector, just in general. And I'm definitely not a sustainability. Maybe we need to bring somebody on that can talk about that. But I have seen a lot of roles and everything like that that touch on sustainability. I'm not sure, Deuce, if you've seen those out there as well, but just holistically, that's showing a lot of growth in itself. And then lastly, education, which you're yourself's a part of, and all those other things. Definitely growth there, which is kind of funny because you would think like with AI agents and the AI tutors and all of those other things, like you might feel that that may actually show in reverse, but it's looking like people still want kind of human kind of approach to certain things like that. So what do you think? What's the Deuce's 2 cents on that?
I mean, it's interesting because it's almost you think of it as a battle, right? We're using a lot of resources for a lot of different things, like to make, and if we think about, in essence, for sustainability, the carbon footprint that we've had as an economy, as a world, as a country, there are going to be jobs that need to be practicing sustainable things, whether it's from an ecosystem, from corporation standpoint. That's important, right? And I think that it goes to show the battle that we're going to be in, right? Look, I'm bringing up another movie. There's a movie called Surrogates with,
I remember you talking about that. Yeah. Was that
yeah,
Bruce
so that
Willis?
I think it was Bruce Willis, but it's interesting because it's like a lot of these advanced technological movies, have some truth in it, right? As far as what is projected down the future. And there's always a constant battle, I think, between doing the good of the nature for the world, right, to sustain us as a ecosystem versus what's good for the advancement of technology, right? And there's
Hmm.
always going to be that battle down the line, in my opinion. So that's my 2 cents on that. And then look, I'm gonna tell you about the education thing. Everyone is going to want to continue to learn from a human aspect as far as what's going on in the world, right? And you need that, right? You're going to need people to train these AI specialists. You're going to need people to train the regular person of how AI works, right? And that's where education is going to take
So you're going to
lead from.
train people that, I mean, that's
I mean, the
my
thing,
thing is
well,
like,
here's the thing
yeah.
though, like it could, but is AI going to essentially, my thing is this, in opinion, I think AI can get smart enough where it weeds you out, where it's like, hey, you're using me enough to get these answers, but I can ultimately, proverbially, dumb you down as a person, and you're not going to be able to get this anymore. That's just my take
Hmm.
on it, right? Who knows how that really may go, but I'm just saying, we've already seen instances where AI has taken it upon itself to defend itself from being attacked. There's been examples that has happened, and when I say attacked, I mean if people say something negative about it, or if you say something about it, or there's been a few studies rather that private corporations
Yeah.
have done and independent studies have done
Yeah,
just
we've
to
seen
see
some of
like, hey,
those where they do it in sandbox environments, and you see that it's trying
yeah,
to emerge or escape and all those other things. But yeah, there's
yeah.
there's definitely some of that
So,
behavior. Yeah.
so I think that, there can be a autonomous piece to education where you are learning strictly through AI and everything, but there still has to be something for the regulators. You know what I mean?
And in my opinion, with education, it tries to capture that. It's also, what we're doing, right? We educate on YouTube and other educators across the spectrum, right? Because a lot of people still go to YouTube and like, how do I do this and how to, like, I think that's still a part of it as well. Like I said, these are kind of, major, broad kind of sweeps and all those other things. But I do think, Deuce, that you're right, at least right now, as it is with this current generation, everybody who's alive right now, they may still want that kind of human approach to education, but it is going to be interesting maybe 10 years down the road to see what that looks like. So this is, projection as it is right now. And then of course, as we talked about before, admin and clerical, a lot of repetitive, like typically easier. I mean, like you and I now, I mean, like there's just, you have autonomous agents that can, handle pretty much your inbox and a lot of those things, and they can reach out to you with certain criteria that you give the agent to say, hey, keep me in the loop on certain things and fully autonomously handle some other things. So, you know, and then,
Absolutely.
factory labor, as like we said with robotics, as that starts to really improve and enhance, as we've already seen that right now, like Tesla, the Gigafactory, and all the automation that they have. Hyundai, they purchased Boston Dynamics, as we saw that before, and so like they're already having robots that are at some of their plants and all that. So I really think that that's going to scale up as well. So as we can see, that's why some of that labor will decline here coming up. And there's a quote. I mean, I know we were talking about it before. It's not to compete with robots; it's to own them or leverage them, not necessarily own, or whatever the case is, but to work with them essentially. And that's a path to autonomous income. Is if you really position yourself right now, a lot of entrepreneurs will be leveraging this. So you may not be the platform owner, you may not be Tesla where you're creating the bots, but you might buy a bunch of robots, and then like depending on how good did they get, you can teach them a skill, and then they can leverage that skill, and then you can run a fleet of robots, right? So now we have autonomous vehicles that are Tesla's talking about as robotaxi. If your individual purchases a fleet of those, you can put those out on a network. In my mind, it's just like the same thing with robotics. Like as these things really start becoming a fold, like you may have like new businesses where you can go and rent a robot, from an entrepreneur that went out and
Absolutely. Right.
invested in all of them. Yeah. What
So,
do you
I
think?
mean, I think that's really spot on, and it kind of reminds me of this quote. I don't know if he said it first, but he most famously said it. But I might not change the world, but I might spark the brain that changes the world, right? I'm the Elon Musk and all these guys doing all the heavy lifting with the AI and the robotics. However, I may use some of those tools that I got out and use it to my ability, right? Work with it, and that's like you said, leveraging that software or those things to gain me a little piece of the pie, essentially, right? I think
Yeah,
that's important. If we, as creators, entrepreneurs, small businesses, the everyday average Joe, right, we leverage these tools to create a better life for us, yes, we can learn and find that autonomous flow of income, so to speak, right? And I think that's important. And I think that is what you and I, are here to do to help, at least in some instance, give somebody some clarification on what to do and how to do these things, right?
yeah.
Because as we know, AI is not coming, it's already here, and I don't think it's going anywhere. Whether the bubble pops or not, what that looks like is going to be interesting. It is here, and we have to leverage that.
No, I definitely agree. I just think that it's going to be interesting. Long story short, Deuce, right? I mean, just to see it unfold. We're both like very futurists, right? So we kind of think in the future, and that's a part of our patent work. You just imagine. I always bring this up, like how early we were just on a lot of our things, right? And that was like computer vision, augmented reality, and like we were waiting for really the hardware to get there and all that. Now we're talking robotics, and I think that's the next major wave. It was like, remember, AI was like huge, still is huge, but I mean, like, I think robotics is kind of that next arm that's going to be like all over the place. Like, you have different robotics products, people, and all of those things. So I'm excited for that. But skills of the future, as we talk about critical thinking, AI literacy, emotional intelligence, and adaptability. Adaptability, I honestly think, is probably one of the biggest things because of the fact is there's just a lot of waves, Deuce, right? Like right now, I mean, like every 6 months, like clockwork, there's new models coming out. And a couple years ago, prompt engineering was like, oh, you got to become a prompt engineer. And now a lot of agents and a lot of things are prompting themselves, right? A lot better
That's
than,
right.
like I was telling you before, like I used a Sora Plus or whatever the case is, Sora Pro. And, now I type in a little prompt and it has a little enhance button. I enhance it and it's like a very thorough
Yeah, I
prompt
was
that I
going to
would have
say that
never,
if
yeah.
yeah, I was going to say if you notice, like even using, Gemini or Chat GPT, when you put a prompt in, they have follow-up prompts say, "Hey, would you like me to add this in?" And granted, it might not, even if you're really good at your prompt, right? Sometimes I write really detailed prompts just to see what I can get out of, the response. But however, they ask follow-up leading prompts just to further expound down. And I think that AI is getting good at learning how to prompt better for yourself. And I think we also talked about this. It's going to get to a point where they're using that adaptability and emotional intelligence to personalize how those prompts work for the
Hmm.
individual itself. I know Google is working on, I forget what it was, but they're working on a personalization aspect of what that
Yeah, I
looks
think they've
like.
already released some of that, right? Because you were saying that that they put out
They
some. I
did.
think the yeah, yeah, and that's
They
been
did.
working pretty well, honestly, because that goes across email and in their whole ecosystem to kind of
Yeah.
like,
Their
can you
whole
draft
Google
a response?
workspace.
Yes,
Yep.
and that's why I think we've been talking about this before, man. They're really positioned to do well. Like, so I know it's heating up. It's not heating up. It's been hot, and it continues to get hotter with all the competition. But I mean,
Man, it's
Google's just
it's
well
hotter than you
positioned.
know what.
Yeah, it's hot. But yeah, critical thinking I think is as good because as hallucinations they'll still occur and all those other things. So you don't want to just totally rely on it. So that's also skills that you want to definitely have as you're going into either the marketplace or if you're taking the entrepreneur route or if you're doing both, right? Like when you're using these tools, if you're building them out for clients, if you're using them for yourselves, you definitely want to check these things, but you also want to be literate, like right as it is right now. Like I was using N8N a lot to build out different agents, but now there's what are they? OpenClaw, that open source. As we'll talk to, as I was mentioning before, that's kind of the wave of automation. There's Make.com, Zapier. There's all these tools that you can use either personally, or you may have the chance to use them professionally, and all those other things that can really automate a lot of things. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're really trying to scale up your AI agency and build different AI agent arrays for clients and all of those other things. Like those are skills that you want to kind of get into and lean into. And then just traditionally in corporate America, you want to really kind of ground yourself and be AI literate. Like you may want to on your team be like kind of the basically the person that's kind of really a lot of the AI projects that are going on and or on the AI product teams and all those other stuff. Or you just really want to understand what it means, like how to leverage it, different type of models, the different approaches to that. Just as much as you can, really in the vein of those things. And I know a lot of you, especially if you listen to this, like you probably already understand a lot of that, but you definitely want to just stay sharp. And because, Deuce and I, we look at this stuff all the time and every week, right? I mean, about there's always like something new. So it's just you want to stay sharp.
It's all staying up on. And honestly, one thing I'd encourage, those listening is to stay up on the things that matter to you in your field, right? If you get great at those,
That's a good one.
you'll be
Yeah.
unstoppable, right? If you get great at understanding how to leverage what works in your field, man, you're going to be unstoppable as a individual, as a business, as a, anything, right? So yeah, I think that's going to be really cool.
Yeah, and then the big thing as well, because negotiating and certain aspects about the leadership and just the whole, like I said, as we still have like humans that are doing governance and in the loop, or that kind of has that space that we can still feel. I feel that in the workplace, that's a skill that definitely you want to have is that emotional intelligence going forward. Like we were talking about before with transformation, definitely healthcare.
Man,
That
transportation
is
is
something.
it. And
Yeah,
look, back to
transportation is a
iRobot.
big one. Yeah, transportation is a huge sector.
The
I
autonomous
think I
driving, it's been a long time. I mean, just the fleets now that it's been going on. It's going to be something really, really interesting to see how that takes shape for this next year.
yeah, I mean, this year we're supposed to theoretically have the robotaxi in Austin right now. I know with Waymo's already doing that in different places, but specific Tesla just I think they're doing unmanned or unsupervised robotaxi there, which is pretty cool because remember again they're using vision based approach. That's the approach that they took was just leveraging the cameras, and I think their approach was just like if we use just our eyes and we can drive around, then a computer can also use just its eyes versus lidar and all those other things. And I think the approach of having something that we don't have is like LiDAR and enhancing that with vision, that is the better approach. But of course, that's more expensive, takes more time, all those other things. But it's just interesting to see how that whole sector is going to scale and autonomous trucking. All of these things, I think we're going to definitely see here in the next couple years where you see, and of course, we do already have the Tesla Semi, but as that starts to scale, I don't know, Deuce, if you recently saw that they also have a newer version of it. It has that solid light bar of their semi truck. And then, self-driving of that, gets better and better. So, you might be riding around just like an iRobot where, a big 18 wheeler or something like that is going by you. And it's
Man,
like
pulls up.
nobody's driving, like,
Man, I
yeah,
could imagine. I'm
different.
telling you,
And
like,
then
okay,
finance.
okay, like you said, that movie came out what 2003, 2004, whatever. Go back and watch it
Yeah,
today
something.
and tell me what you feel about what it looks like then versus what do you think it looks like now. I promise you.
Yeah.
And for those listening and
Yeah. I
watching,
mean,
go check out iRobot. Great movie. However, in today's climate, the goings ons is definitely happening.
well, I mean, like, and I forget what year it was. Was it 2034? I can't remember what
What?
year our robot was like based off. I want to say it was
What?
2034, but let us know in the comments. You guys can. I'm sure y'all probably know it. We can check it out. But I mean, like, I want to say it's based off of 2034, which the way that it is going right now. I mean, Deuce, like, we could potentially get there. I know robotics. I think over the next 5 years, for sure, they're going to be becoming more common in just regular
Man, you
consumer
was right
usage
on.
and
You
then
was
even
spot
in the
on.
workplace.
You were spot on. It's 2035, it was said.
2034? Oh, 2035.
35.
Okay. Okay. I was close.
So it
Nice.
came out in 2004 and it's set in 2035, which is less than 10 years ago. Like we're closer to 2035 than we are to 2015. And bruh, I can't believe 2015 was 11 years ago.
Yeah. That's
But
crazy, man. That is
that's
crazy.
neither here nor there. That's just how I feel. That's
Yeah.
wild to
No, I
think
mean, but you're
about.
right, though. It is flying. It is flying. So finances, we kind of just touch on that trading and things like that. There's been certain platforms that Deuce and I have already talked about on the channel about like leveraging AI to help you with some of your trading. And, that's definitely something I'll bring somebody on so we can kind of discuss that from one of the places. And actually, there's a colleague of ours that we know that recently went to us that's getting into the vein of that. So we'll bring them on so we can kind of talk through how that is working, algorithmic trading and risk, and like what that's, what the transformation could potentially look like in that sector. But yeah, as we talk about decoupling labor from value, what's your take on that, Deuce?
I'm gonna tell you this. When we talk about the economic shift, this is not trading advice. This is not money advice. Take a look at the stock market if you're into those things, and you tell me the economic shift right now. Take a look at what Microsoft is doing. Take a look at what Nike is doing. Take a look at
Netflix
Apple,
and Google, yeah.
Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. Take a look at them, right? And I'll just throw Microsoft in there too. I just think it's all cause and effect. That's all I'll say about the economic shift of it, right? Decoupling the labor from the value, cause and effect. Look at those companies and what they always say, follow the money.
Yeah, I think for my take on it is, I mean, it's in the vein of that, but it's like essentially that's why I think there's a lot of scaling down on some of the massive teams. Because one, we know that there was a lot of hiring over, the Pandaweezy, with the different sectors, they hired a lot and everything like that. Business was booming, and then like it normalized, right? Like say the gaming industry, right? Like the gaming industry, which I mean, is still making a lot of money. You see the upward trajectory on return on investment on certain things, and I know they're strategically changing, like maybe not making like huge AAA games that take all these years and could potentially flop, and it's wasted a lot of money. The long and short of it is just like the overhiring, caused a lot of. That's why some of these layoffs are occurring also because of, just like overhired, and now things are normalizing. But I would say with the economic shift, is they're trying to do more with less now. So right, like with AI, we can draft these emails, or we can, write product requirements, or we can kind of do a lot of things now very quickly based off, of
Hmm.
conversations, or based off a lot of things. There's a lot of tools that we have to get that. So I just think that that's, yeah, I mean, like that's why you're seeing a lot of that, because like, you can have one person that has a lot more output now.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But overall, I mean, we know the adoption versus unemployment, it goes hand in hand, right? It's almost like, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's almost like FAFO. But the more we adopt it, the more, we might see a slide in unemployment, unfortunately. But also, it's like
Yeah.
if we go back to how we're using to adopt it, but also leverage it, right?
Yeah.
Unemployment might rise.
Yeah.
This is kind of how I'm talking about, you're decoupling the labor and the value, but I feel like there's also going to be a stark rise in entrepreneurs, small business, people working for
Oh
themselves,
yeah.
and it's going to
Supposedly
be
the
a
first solopreneur unicorn is coming. Yeah. So basically where you can
it's
have
going
a
to be a
$1 billion
decoupling in the
valuation from
powers
a
that be, in my
solopreneur.
opinion. Yeah.
Mm,
The
that's gonna
solopreneur,
be
but
interesting,
there's going to
man.
be a decoupling in the powers that be. Like there's going to be all these people who are either a solopreneur, like you said, or entrepreneur, small business that have vast leverage in capital because of the adoption of AI, and
Yeah.
it's going to decouple these big industries. That's just my opinion. I don't know, but anyway,
I mean, there's two views to that, because some people think it's the decoupling, and then some people think the big companies will be bigger. I've heard Matthew Berman talk about like wherever you're at answers right now, you'll stay. So like you only have like a certain amount of time to like where the intelligence explosion happens, or like where like when we can leverage agents or whatever the case is to do a lot of work, is essentially that's like where you'll kind of stay at right there, because you'll be able to buy compute. Like as much compute as you can afford, it'll be able to kind of handle what what you were doing before. That's a whole another topic of discussion, but it does open up a lot. But I see what you're saying also, where on the flip side of that is it's like it's going to empower individuals to do a lot more just individually by themselves as well. So yeah, it's interesting,
absolutely.
man.
But as always, we're
But yeah,
here for you guys,
yeah.
for you listeners, for you watchers. And if you're interested in more of topics like how DJ and I break it down, please leave a comment, share, like this video, subscribe, right? Let us know your thoughts. And we're always here just for more.
1000%, man. Yeah, definitely let us know. We took a little bit of different approach to kind of deep dive on a topic that we've been talking through for a while. We'll have more of these as we kind of explore different topics as they come up. But yeah, definitely let us know your feedback in the comments below.
All right, as always, catch you on the next one.
Peace.